Welcome to the MuseCast, where we squeeze every last drop of inspiration out of Sunday's sermon.
You're standing. You're not in your chair.
No, I feel good. Let's just, let's stand up for this one. It's the holiday season. It's the birth of our Lord. I'm standing up.
Let's stand up for Christmas, man. Come on now.
No, mostly I've been sitting all day, so it feels good to stand up.
It does. That's good. Well, happy Muse Day, Dan Kent.
Happy Muse Day.
It's just you and I today. Last week, the joint was a little spiffier because we had Cedric with us, but today it's just these two schlubs, Dan Kent, Shawna,
a little
Boren.
lonely. A little lonely.
That's all right. We'll somehow suffer through.
And also, with the holidays, our chats have been a little light. So the attendance for the live session has been a little light. People are busy with the holidays.
Yeah.
So
But we're still here. We're still bringing you the real about these sermons in the Fulfilled series. So
that's right.
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to talk about it. I'm glad, I feel like I say this every time we do a Christmas series, and I feel like especially with this one, the ways in which I have been blessed and the things in which that have pricked my heart throughout this series have been really surprising and welcome. And I'm really thankful for the series. I've been encouraged by each week, by each of you guys that have brought forth a sermon. And we've got one more after this. And little sneak peek. When is that going to happen, Dan Kent?
That'll be 3:00 on Wednesday, which when you are watching this, it'll be tomorrow at 3:00. That will be live streamed. But if you are local, definitely come in, 15, 20, 30 minutes early and get a cookie. So.
You were there was a bit of a pendulum swing of time when you announced.
I keep forgetting. What time is it?
Well, listen, it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's odd. Yeah. 20 minutes is odd, but that's what we're doing. So come 20 minutes early.
Yes. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What is your favorite kind of Christmas cookie?
Okay, so listen, I'm not a huge sweetie person. But this is what I will say. I'm more savory. So anytime there's like some sort of chocolate with some sort of salt.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Maybe like a chocolate with some salt, like on a pretzel or something,
That's
or like a
stuff.
cookie with the chocolate and some salt. I'm in. I love it.
You don't even need a cookie, just chocolate and then a little salt shaker.
A little salt.
Right.
That's all you need. How about you?
Well, my favorite is the little dough cookie with the Hershey Kiss on top. I like those. You know
what makes that supreme? That little dough cookie with a little Hershey Kiss on it. Yep, a little bit of salt.
Hey, okay, this is totally off topic, and we're going to get to the sermon really quick. It's going to come at you fast.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this: when you eat an apple, do you just chew
salt.
it, or do you add salt?
I do add salt.
So do I.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yes.
Do you ever? Okay. On to that, one of the things my dad always does, and I am his daughter, so I do it as well, is the apple. I don't think he does the salt because he's smarter than I, but a nice little piece of cheddar cheese with it. Bite for bite. It's good stuff.
I could see how that would be good, mostly because cheddar cheese is 80% salt, but so.
Have a salty Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, that's right. Well, good.
So Christmas Eve, 3 p.m. live streamed, or come in person about 20 minutes early for coffee, for cookies, and for caroling. It's going to be a good time. And that is when we will conclude Fulfilled. But before we get to that, we've got to talk about what just happened on Sunday. And that was Greg bringing us the joy and grief of the Messiah's birth.
Yes. Yeah. Very long title, but yes, that is what the sermon was. So, you got to say it all right there in the title. And he did. And so, this is a cool sermon because, he's really looking at a part of the Christmas story that most churches sort of neglect. They just kind of dance over it. And I think that they do so at their own loss, because I think that what Greg showed us, I think is really helpful and encouraging. And let me just say what he does. So he starts off by talking about how Christmas is the most wonderful time of the year, and that's sort of the MO for Christmas, is that it's holly and jolly and all of that. However, some people, the Christmas season can amplify whatever grief they're carrying, especially if they've lost loved ones or whatever, or if it's just generalized grief based on the state of the world and so forth. And so what do you do in this most wonderful time of the year if you are also carrying burdens of grief? And well, that's where Greg's like, look, the Christmas story includes that. I mean, the joy of the birth of the Messiah includes this great grief. And he looks at this situation where this grief happens right at the same time of Jesus's birth. And to kind of set the context here to see what's going on, he talks about the three wise men, the magi, these astrologers who come to Judah to look for the birth of the Messiah, to look for this messianic king. And so they go to Herod and ask him, where is this king? Where has he been born, so that we can bring him gifts and so forth. And this is fulfilling. It doesn't actually fulfill it. Herod wants to find out where this king is also, because he didn't even know anything about this. And now suddenly he has this threat to his kingship. And so his Bible scholars basically point him to Micah 5:2, which basically points his army to Bethlehem. And, he doesn't know which one of these kids is the supposed Messiah. So he just orders all of the males who are 2 years and younger to be killed. And which, given the size of Bethlehem, it's estimated between 12 and 15 boys were probably slaughtered, which is just a horrific tragedy and just a absolute injustice, just profound. And, that sort of like, that's the context that the Christmas story is going on in. And Matthew goes on to say that this sort of fulfills Jeremiah 31:15. And hold on a second. Ta-da! So what 31:15 says is, a voice is heard in Ramah. I don't know how to pronounce it. Ramah, probably. A voice is heard in Ramah, mourning and great weeping. Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no more. And Matthew points to this, even though, the weeping in Ramah by Rachel, that was about a totally different set of kids. That was about a totally different tragedy. But Matthew says, this is that. This is a fulfillment of that. This is like a full instantiation of what Rachel was weeping for. That's what's happening here. It's just that profound level of injustice. And so, what Greg argues here, and I think he makes just a really great point, is that the Christmas story, even though it points to pure joy, it emerges from grief. And so the joy of the Messiah comes to us in the context of injustice and grief. And there's three things that he sort of, that Greg sort of points us to with that. Like, what do we do with that? Well, the first thing is that what this says is that we are allowed to grieve. We have permission to grieve. Just because the good news has come upon us, just because God has now dwelt among us and has, taught us and made promises to us and has died for our sins and all of that, well, we're still in that context of injustice and grief, and we have therefore permission to grieve. Grief is not a rejection of the good news. It's not evidence that our faith is lacking. It's not evidence that we don't understand God or anything like that. In fact, Jesus himself says that his soul is crushed with grief to the point of death when he's facing his crucifixion. And so grief is not something to be ashamed of or to deny, but rather to let grief happen. Grief is part of how we process injustice, and so we have permission to grieve. In fact, I agree with Greg. I think we should grieve if we have grief. We shouldn't suppress it. The second thing is that we can invite Jesus and others into our own grief. Grief isn't something that we have to hide away. It's something that we can make public, and we can grieve with one another and carry each other's burdens, as sort of the way Paul puts it in Galatians, where we grieve together. And I think that is important because grief feels so personal. And if you can share that with other people, it takes the sting out when you have a community to grieve with. And then the final point he makes is that we have to remember where the story is heading. Right now, we have this incredible joy of the good news of the birth of the Messiah in the context of grief and injustice and suffering and all of that ungodliness. But eventually, all of that ungodliness will burn away, and we will have the joy of God's presence. And so we have to remember where this story is going. And then Greg ends with just sharing this vision that he has shared from the past. He shared this before, but I'm so glad that he brings it up every few years or so, because it's a pretty touching vision. But he just has this vision where he was grieving the kind of in Minnesota, at least, it was a very popular news story about this abduction of this boy, Jacob Wetterling, who would have been my age right now, by the way. And Greg was grieving that, and he had this kind of vision of Jesus with all of these children who had experienced these great injustices. And Greg makes eye contact with Jesus, and Jesus assures Greg that he will make it up to the kids and that he will make everything good. And that is sort of the Christmas story. Not that it's just joy, but it's joy through suffering, through injustice, through grief. And so the joy and grief of the Messiah's birth, that's what Greg's sermon was about. What did you think of Greg's sermon?
First, thank you for your summary, Dan. You know this. People, it's just so helpful to folks just to succinctly capture what was shared on a Sunday in the sermon. So thank you for that. You always do a great job. I'm gonna be very honest. Like we were chatting just a couple of minutes before the show, and prior to Sunday's sermon, I had been sick, so there's always that element of it physically. But I was feeling the weight of people in my life that are struggling. I was feeling the weight of people within our church community that are struggling, that have experienced immense loss, that are anxious about things going on, that are confused, that have questions about their health and just about, a variety of things. I for whatever reason, I was feeling the weight of that. And it is so easy just to be like, joy to the world, the Lord has come. And while, yes, that is true, I really appreciated this approach at this time. This approach, meaning, like you said, a lot of churches will not dive into this particular aspect of the Christmas story. And I am so thankful that we did. I am so thankful that Greg did, because I feel like that's reality. And so I was feeling the weight of a lot of things, and it was hard for me to find that Christmas joy. And I tell you what, I listened to Greg's sermon twice because I just wanted to make sure I was hearing what I thought I was hearing. And I was so encouraged. I was really encouraged because it showed me the reality of the fullness of the Christmas story. And that does include grief, but the grief doesn't negate the joy. The grief doesn't negate the ultimate redemption of what will be, the fullness of the reason why Christ came. And so for me personally, the sermon was just a great encouragement and it was a great reminder. And I know Greg has said it before, but that the grief, the suffering, the pain, the confusion, those things do not have the last word. And I thought it was a really great reminder. And again, just the reality of it. I agree. I think as Christians, many times there could be a perception and even an accusation that we just stick our head in the sand and we don't deal with. But listen, there is stuff going on. There's stuff going on in our state. There's stuff going on in our lives. There's stuff going on in our country and the world. And it is okay. And I think important to acknowledge those things and yet know that our hope lies in this Messiah who did come to redeem, who did come to make all things new. And I just love it. Greg said it. You said it today as well, that the grief or the struggle or the pain or whatever it is does not negate the good news. The good news is good news. And if there was never any bad news, there wouldn't be a need for good news. And so right. I just feel like the good news shines brighter in these darkest of times. And so I am encouraged anew and feeling blessed and so thankful that we shared what was shared this weekend.
Yeah. Do you know if you have food on your plate that you have to eat and it doesn't taste good, do you know what helps it taste better? Salt. And we are the salt of the earth. We are the salt of the earth.
Yes.
See,
this show is coming full circle already. But listen, look at us, like just bringing it all together.
That's right.
I love it.
So I think that's right. The good news is better in the context of reality, and the good news isn't like make believe. It's not like La La Land. It's not the land of Christmas sweaters and unicorns. It's the good news is good news for this world, this broken, ungodly world, and that's part of the salt. The salt doesn't get rid of the bad flavors; it brings out the good from the bad, and I think that's. I'm also glad, and and I think different people will hear it differently, and some people, I can understand why some people might not want to hear this. Maybe they do want to just focus on the good, but my experience is that the good news is longer lasting and it gains deeper roots if you're more in touch with reality as it is. So I agree. I'm glad that Greg went that direction.
Yeah. And we are fortunate enough, we meaning you and I, and others on our teaching team and pastoral team, we are so fortunate that we get to kind of hear these firsthand accounts of how people are hearing a sermon, how they are processing a sermon and just their feedback and all. And it was really cool. Just, it felt like in the room, but also, on the chat and, in conversations afterwards, that this was just one of those timely messages that people needed to hear. Just a reminder that, listen, yes, joy to the world, and it's the most wonderful time of the year and all of that. And also, some people are struggling, and the struggle is real, and that is okay. Be where you are, but invite Jesus into that and invite others into that, because that's part of the recipe for the healing that gets us through, and knowing that our story is heading in a much more glorious place. I just, again, timely, really powerful, really good, and at least the folks that I've engaged with have really appreciated just the timeliness of this message. So that was great.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think the letting others into your grief piece also, I think that there's so many, isn't that weird that there's so many forces that kind of whisper in our ears to just keep things to ourselves. Yeah. And a lot of social pressure and, faith pressure and stuff like that. And so I think that that's an important thing to hear also, that carry one another's burdens, that
Yeah.
there is a sense in which we're not meant to take on that grief ourselves. And how
Alone.
much more so in a world where we have all of the world's grief at our fingertips, and it's,
Yeah.
we have this, little 12-ounce phone that has 10 tons of the world's grief, like, that pours
Yeah.
out on us. And I don't think we're meant to take on that
Yeah.
much.
We
And
get
so,
inundated with a
yeah,
fire hose of just crap
right,
anytime
right.
we want or don't want. It's just there. You're right.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so glad you brought up that point, Dan, because that was one of the more poignant point parts for me in the second listen through was listen, Jesus tried to bring others in. He knew, he knows the relationality that we are created with. And if even the Christ knew that he needed to share his burdens, what makes us think that we won't need to do that? And I think the enemy lies. And I think you're right. There are so many other things at play that try to shame us and to cause us to keep things hidden. Maybe it's that we think people won't care or we're embarrassed. I don't know. There's a variety of reasons as to why we try to think we've got to go at things alone. And that is it's a trick of the enemy, as we
Mhm.
used to say where I'm from. It is just a lie of the enemy. And we are meant to carry those burdens for one another and with one another. And I want to say too, like yes, invite others in, but then also, if you're one of those that are in a great place, be attentive and mindful because sometimes you'll just get a sense or a nudge like, hey, reach out to this person or check in on this person or say hi and smile to this person.
Yeah,
You just never know how you are helping someone else carry something. You may not always be told.
yeah,
So just, I just think that's an important aspect of it too.
yeah. No, I agree. Yep, well said.
Awesome. I think, Dan, I, I think that we want to be mindful of people's space and time during this crazy busy time of year. And so this may be a bit of a shorter episode, and that's always okay. Um, and I just would love to really quickly remind people of Greg's three closing points because I think they are so valuable, and Dan shared them in the summary as well. But number one was give yourself permission to grieve and to be confused. That's where the lamenting process can be so powerful and healing. Number two, invite Jesus and others into your grief and confusion. We are wired for that relationality. And then number three, remember where your story is heading. And
Mhm.
so I know this sounds nuggety. It's not, I promise. I'm just going to say, as you are heading into the rest of this week, whatever that looks like for you, whatever excitement you have or not excitement you have, I just encourage you to know that Jesus sees, cares, knows, and he wants to be a part of this process with you. And I'm sure that there are others in the world that want to come alongside you and be joyful with you or or mourn with you. It's important to
Mhm.
remember that for folks. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that's really well said. And this just came to me. I'll just say it. I think that just for some reason right now I know a lot of people who have lost loved ones,
Yeah.
and it's the holiday season, and
Yeah.
some people, that's, what do you do with that? What do you do, how do you come together as a family when one of the key family members is no longer with you? I think, in my opinion, I think the best thing to do is to continue to include them in this new situation. And my Barbara's mother has a picture of of Barbara's dad that she puts
Mm.
at the dinner table. And so he's
Mm.
there. And so, that's very sad. And yet we're still celebrating together. And, things like that, I think can, where you're not in denial about the bad stuff, but at the same time, you're not just forgetting about the bad stuff and moving on. You're grieving it. And so I encourage people to be strategic with your grief. So that
I
sounds
love
like a
that.
nugget too, but
I know.
so
Look at we can't help ourselves, Dan. I think that just means we need to get to it. We might as well just officially get to nugget time. I don't know.
woohoo.
Okay, yeah, nuggets. Sometimes you got to do the nugget dance even if you're not fully feeling it. And
That's
so
right.
that's just a part of acting out in faith,
Well, we
the
got nuggets
joy.
coming out of our ears, so we got to
We
get yeah, we got
do.
to get to it.
Yeah, we got to get to
So
it. Do you want a nugget first or last?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Mine's it's a Christmas gift to me. It's an easy one. So
Okay.
uh there's a certain verse that I often think about in when it comes to the Bible and
If
God
it
and
is what I think it is.
this is why I wanted to go first, by the way. So John 16:33.
33.
Yes, Jesus says, "In this life you will have trouble, but take heart because I have overcome the world." And the reason I think that is just so important, especially with Greg's message talking about the grief and the joy of the birth of the Messiah, is that if you don't acknowledge that Jesus is telling us that you will have trouble, if you don't acknowledge that, yeah, the Christmas story is the good news, the best news possible, and yet it happened within the context of injustice, if you don't hold both of those, you're going to walk around expecting only joy and expecting only good things. And when bad things happen, you can't help but interpret that as a threat to your faith. And so the more you can embrace the reality of the teaching that no, in this life, you will have trouble, the stronger you will be able to cling to your faith in the face of those bad things that happen. And so that's why that is our favorite nugget
We love
verse.
it.
So yeah.
We love it. We love it. Good job, Dan. I want to just encourage everyone. One of the things that just kept spinning around in my brain as I was listening to the sermon, and I immediately began to reflect on just the different people in my life, the different people I have known or do know, and so many times when struggles come, when the grief is there or the confusion is there or you've really just been dealt a really hard blow, the question is always why. And then for believers, many times it is, where is God? And so many times, because we're afraid to even consider the fact that God had anything to do with anything of that. We then think, what did I do wrong? Where did I fall short? Where did I sin? Where did my faith lack? And that makes me sad. It has made me sad. And the encouragement is this. And Greg said this in the sermon. Listen, not everything's not always going to be a box of roses, bouquet of roses, not box of roses. Everything's not always going to be shiny, happy, and grand. And that does not negate the good news of Jesus. It doesn't negate God's love for us and the purpose of a Messiah coming to fulfill all that he came to fulfill. I don't want people to think it's because of their lack of faith or they did something wrong or God's trying to teach them a lesson. It's just, in this world you will have trouble, but the beauty and the hope is that trouble does not have the last word. That is not the end of the story, and we are not in it alone. And so while it is heartbreaking so many times, and while Greg's closing illustration of how he felt Jesus met him in a really vulnerable place, through the Jacob Wetterling thing, I just think that's important to remember that Jesus is there, and that Jesus will make it up, not
Yeah.
only to the children, which is so beautiful, but to you and to me and to those that we love. Like Jesus will redeem all of that, all of all of the grief, all of the confusion, all of the shame and doubt. Jesus will redeem. And for those of you who are like, come on, guys, this is the most wonderful time of the year. Let's be happy and hopeful and joyful. I say yes and amen to that. And then you take that bucket full of sunshine that you have and share that with others, because sometimes people just don't have it. And that's okay. It is
That's right.
okay to be where you are, whether you are in a victorious, joyful place, or whether you're in a more of a struggling place. It's okay to be where you are. The key is to invite Jesus into that, invite others into that, and to have the hope and knowing that the enemy and the doubt and the shame and the fear and the pain does not have the last word. Merry Christmas!
That's funny. I lost your audio.
I'm back.
There you are.
Yeah,
Your Merry Christmas was so joyous. It it shorted out the system.
it
So
did. It was
yeah.
like, whoa, what happened
Yeah.
there? But seriously, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Hmm.
Next time you see us and we see you, it'll be right before the new year. It'll be
That's right.
after this the Christmas day. And so we just want to thank you and say Merry Christmas. Yes, Dan.
Yes, and that reminds me, we are going to have a service tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Come early if
Yep.
you're local for cookies.
Yep. Yep.
We are not going to do a MuseCast for it. So this is
No,
your Christmas MuseCast. So
this is that. Yeah.
yes. So but definitely you got to watch the service,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no
Mm-hmm.
MuseCast, no sermory for it.
No.
And I think it's going to be really great. So I encourage people to watch it.
Yeah. Amen to that. Next time you hear from us, we'll be in a whole new series.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Things are moving,
Hmm.
grooving. We're just plugging along. So thank you for spending this holiday season with us. Thank you for all that you do to let us know that you are here. You guys are amazing, and we are so grateful for you. Merry
Hmm.
Christmas. Happy holidays. Have a blessed week.
That's right.